This section is about capital raising and sales. So if you're an investor here in the room, you're probably in the helping grow sales within the companies you own or you have in the past. And for those of you raising capital, this section will be critical. Robert Cialdini has shown that the relationship you have, it's scientifically proven that the relationship you have with someone is twice as likely to determine whether they invest with you than the merits of your deal. You can tell them, I have 30 years experience, this deal's going to give you this IRR, we're going to do this and this, but the relationship is why they end up joining. It's whether they really trust you, it's whether they really like you and find they have things in common with you or can relate and understand how you add value. Jeffrey Gitomer is one of my mentors. I've gotten to meet him in person several times and been on his podcast. He's been on my podcast a few times. He went from making $50,000 a year selling sports equipment to writing an article for a local newspaper, and they liked it. So he started writing a weekly column for the newspaper. Then he started syndicating it in 100 different newspapers. Then he started an email like e-Zine way back in the day and released 15 bestseller books and then made 7 figures a year in his business for a long time. And he told me something that changed my life. He said, I heard this when I was in college. He said, well, if you pick a topic and you put out helpful information to people who could say yes to you, and you do that just once a week, and you do that for a year or two, you'll be locally well-known. If you do that for 3 or 4 years in a niche, you'll be regionally well-known. If you do that for 5 to 7 years, you'll be nationally well-known. But he said in that same paragraph, this is the most valuable paragraph in all of my 13 best-selling books, but none of you are actually going to do it because it actually takes hard work. It's reading the software manual. And I remember looking up in college saying, I'm the SOB who's going to do it because he just told me I'm not going to do it. And that's all I've done with Family Office Club. I just put out videos, put out podcasts on the family office niche for 18 years, and it works because you're adding value first. It's not the only way to grow your relationships, but it definitely works. So it adds context, and it might not be writing, might not be speaking, might not be videos, might not be books, it might be something completely different. It might be taking people out for golf, taking people hunting, whatever it is you like to do. But the context and trust is everything. But also I find that integrating everything, the more aligned things are, the better. The more your employees are aligned with you, where you live is aligned with what you're trying to do, your joint venture partners, everything, it goes faster. Meeting in person, 16 times as powerful. Covered that this morning. Here's some tactical tools that I use. ActiveCampaign is a CRM we use. You can send an email out and then see out of the 500 people you emailed, which 20 clicked on the link, and then just call those 20 instead of calling through a whole database. It's very easy to set up lead scoring and track who clicked on what these days. Fireflies, mentioned earlier, you can have every Zoom call, every phone call transcripted and put in here. So you look at what your best people are doing on your sales team versus the worst. Look at sentiment analysis. Was it positive, negative? Are your best salespeople asking more questions? Or are they listening more? Are they using filler words like the word that I just did? And how often are they using filler words? You can also, like right now, we just went through the process yesterday. We got all 500 of the conversations since February 1st that were 10 minutes or longer and downloaded those 500 documents and then found an AI tool that combines documents together. And then now we have a transcript, of 7,500 minutes of sales content of my sales team talking to people. And then we can train our Family Office Club Concierge tool on that. So when people ask questions, it's trained on the last 2.5 months of information from the transcripts. So it's good for coaching, it's good for AI tool training internally. A lot of good insights can come from using it. Hubstaff we use for virtual team management. This takes random screenshots of people working for you. We used this for the last 13 years. Even when we had an in-person office and they were working 3 feet from me, they would log in using Hubstaff and then they log out at the end of the day and it just takes random screenshots. So if they start at 6 a.m. because they have a dentist appointment later that day, they just log in and start doing that. Some people don't like it, but it's usually the people that don't really want to work full-time and they want to get paid virtually to half work. So we found it to be super helpful. And we've dodged some bullets with that where, one person was demanding a very high salary. And then when they found out that we use this software, she was very offended and was like, oh my gosh, it's so Big Brother. The other big firms I worked for never had that. I was like, well, you probably worked in person there, right? Now we're in a virtual world. And she's like, yeah, but sometimes I might have to go to school to pick up my kids and then work a little bit later. And I was like, well, this is perfect for that then. I don't care if you work at 4 a.m. or 7 a.m. or, 10 a.m. Like, just make sure that we get a reasonable exchange of value. And some people just don't want to be held accountable for time worked. So it's a good tool. This tool, Phone Burner, allows us to do 100 calls in the time it used to take us to do 20 or 30. So one of my salespeople have been using this. You get to look and say, okay, we have this deal coming up in Seattle. What people have we spoken to recently in our deal pipeline and our CRM, or are based in the Seattle region, or are ranked highly with engagement scores? Why don't we export those as a CSV, put them into Phone Burner, and then go through those, and it'll auto dial each one. And if you have a relationship with them, you don't leave the optimized voicemail that's pre-recorded. You can record 10 voicemails, keep the one that sounds great, and then you can just left click and leave that voicemail and it auto dials the next person. It's like an auto dialer. Or you can custom leave the voicemail by clicking a different button and say, oh, hey, Ryan, nice playing golf with you last month. We're doing this deal locally. Just wanted to see if you're interested or not. Hope you're doing well. And leave a custom voicemail if you want. So, but it's still you recording the message, still you doing the calls, but it's very rapid fire. The reason why this is powerful is that when you're reaching out to people, if you do what everyone else does, it doesn't work so well. I've said that so many times today, right? But I get only maybe 4 to 8 voicemails a day. I think sometimes maybe 12, but I get 1,050 emails a day. You know what that means? That it's 200 times more competitive to reach people via email. Nobody wants to make a phone call. It takes way too much effort. Emailing 10,000 people, a couple clicks, off you go. But I listen to the first line of every single voicemail I get. And when it's a political thing, or, hey, I want to pay off your student loans you never had, or whatever it is, some credit offer or something else, then obviously I delete it. But I listen to every voicemail. I don't read every single email if on the surface it looks like a garbage email, right? You can't. So that's why calling is important, because it actually takes work and effort. Same with direct mail. We sent a red flat envelope to several hundred family offices for a while. It's just a one-page newsletter, front and back, just pure value, wasn't selling anything. And then we stopped, and then 3 years later, the Neutrogena skincare family reached out and said, hey, you used to send us this newsletter. It was great. I don't know why you stopped, but we need help now finding the CIO. You know anybody we should hire? And I didn't know that they were reading it, but it was working. And years later, they remembered it. Because if you think about it, 1,000 pieces of mail or 1,000 emails a day, how many value add educational pieces of mail do you get that's not a postcard selling a piece of real estate, or just something that's a pure sales pitch and actually adds value to you and shows up in the direct mail each month? Like 2, 4, 0, 1. It's not 800 a day, right? It's not 800 a year. It's not, it's probably not even 8 a month, right? So direct mail to the top 300, 500 prospects, calls to your top 300, 500. These are things that nobody wants to do. And so it'll probably work. Just like what Dat was saying about being ultra healthy. We use live chat, nothing earth shattering there. This is one of the slides I printed out and put in your workbook, so you don't have to spend time reading it. But the more institutional quality you are, the more you'll be ready for the next size up investor. You might be raising at the largest $500,000 checks right now. You want to start raising $5 million checks? Well, by being more institutional quality, the $100,000 checks will come in faster because it's going to look even more buttoned up. And then when you find yourself having a cup of coffee with somebody at an investor summit or something like that, it's going to be that much more dialed in for them. And you might land that check a year or two earlier by having your stuff be institutional quality, right? The right one-pager, the right logo, one-liner, concise, clear, unique, compelling, etc. That's why you want to be institutional quality, not get upset if somebody says no, not corner Connie and give her a 15-minute talk on what you're doing when it might be nothing that she could help you with. Just maybe say your one-liner and then be friendly and see how you could add value to Connie versus just going into pitch mode and try to suck her into your vortex. Like institutional quality is like respecting people's time, being concise, friendly, adding value. That's the norm. All right, so here are some quick takeaways on raising capital. Play a unique game to source opportunities first exclusively in a better valuation. Develop a powerful position, leverage choke points, class act wins long-term, ultra healthy, extremely focused, exciting projects only, constantly upgrade your mindset, and remember the power of proximity. That's why we host our events. Remember that tool. And these are the most important 6 things. We're going to do a little poll here in the room. You can do all these 6 things and raise no money. It doesn't mean if you do these 6 things, the money's going to come pouring in. But these are 6 things that almost every single person raising capital, I think, doesn't really get right. And if anybody does want to sit in the back, we've got a few extra chairs up here if you want to come up, but you don't have to. These are the 6 things. We've pretty much flogged this on death, so unique position. Number 2, a one-line capital raising pitch in 1 sentence, 3 data points, a couple of reasons why you're compelling, say what you do, why people trust you, work with you, what value you add in a single sentence. Can't be any longer. At our investor summits, we have discussion panels where we rate 1 to 10 one-liners. And this is free exposure for the people who are coming there to meet investors. It's free exposure in front of the whole ballroom. And we'll email 600 people and say, submit your one-liner if you want to say it on stage. We'll get 20 people, maybe, out of 600 that want free exposure on stage for their one-liner. I don't know if it's because other people missed the email. Of course, that's some of it. A lot of people, I think, just don't have a one-liner. And when you see these on stage, usually 5 out of 6 panelists are very polite. There'll be one that jokes around and is a little bit harsh sometimes, some people, but people are pretty polite about the feedback, but they're pretty bad. You'll see like 1 or 2 out of 17 get a good review by all the investors because we'll ask for a one-liner and it'll be a paragraph. We'll ask for a one-liner and it'll say, oh, we buy multifamily real estate. We improve stuff at $10,000 per door and then raise rents and then when we sell it for a higher price. And it's like, well, that's the whole industry. That's not unique, right? It's like if you're a hedge fund, it's like everyone says, oh, we're absolute return. We make money whether the market goes up or down and we have a best-in-class team. It's like, well, that's just the definition of the industry. It doesn't make people lean forward. And so most people have a one-liner, really need to work on it. The 1 to 3 minute founder video, even less people have. People would rather watch that than see a 44-page pitch deck to de-risk their time a little bit and see, what you're all about. Are you articulate? Are there unique things about you? In the video, you should say your one-liner and maybe walk in through the manufacturing floor and then introduce them to Sarah and John, who are running your manufacturing machine, and then show them the ISO binders on the wall where you label your consumer products for quality control and just kind of show them what you're all about and make it real. Show the oil and gas rig, show the inner workings of your fintech product working in real time, maybe a quick quote or two from someone that's involved in your business who's credible. Most people do not have that. A one-pager, super critical. It should be visual. So when I scan my boarding pass to go on the airplane, by the time I've made it to my airplane seat, I can text my executive assistant and say, yeah, let's set up a meeting, with Sarah for next week to talk about that opportunity. It looks really great. You should be able to look at it, consume it, and get it. The key diagram or key visual in your one-liner should already convince people this is worth looking at. I've never seen anything like that. Or that's exactly what we're looking for, et cetera. A 10 to 15 page pitch deck or 19 to 25 pages if you absolutely can't get it shorter. But the more valuable of an investor you go after, the more employees they have, the more LLCs, the more K1s, the more airplane trips, the more, like Glenn was saying, did 70 million in revenue last year. He's like, I'm just trying to survive the day of all the emails and all the expectations on my calendar and the team and employees and partners and banks and lines of credit and everything. And so if you have a 37-page pitch deck, put the word Mickey Mouse on page 29, ask your spouse and your business partner to read it, and they probably won't even catch it because your own spouse or partner is probably not going to read every page of a 37-page pitch deck. Nobody wants to. So I would have all those details, but in a data room, or have extra details if they want to click a link and then watch a little video or an extra bit on that. I would have stuff ready, like Connie said, know your numbers, be able to survive like a light to medium grilling in person, but keep it really concise because then it's more likely they're going to read all 12 pages. It's more likely they're not going to open it and be like 68 pages. I'm not going to look at that today. I'll look at that next week. And then you never look at it. That happens a lot. The due diligence data room, we talked about that. Having a background check on yourself, ready for a third party, due diligence questionnaire. We had some NSA, FBI guys that were starting a private equity fund, and they said that their competitive advantage was extremely thorough due diligence. I said, oh, great. Okay, well, why don't you raise capital faster through having extremely thorough due diligence on yourself? So that when you go to someone, you show them how you vet everything 3 times deeper than anyone else, and you know to use databases other people don't even know exist. And their reaction was the worst reaction possible. They said, oh, is that what everyone does? Is that best practice? And it's like, no, nobody does that, but that's what would make you stand apart because that's your unique DNA. Like, why would you hide that and not expect that on yourself to have that level of due diligence? So having a master due diligence questionnaire are those 30 questions and answers. You can use Dewey, the AI tool, to help generate that. Having a data room, ask the AI tool what should go in your data room. How many people have all 6 of these things in place right now for raising capital? And it's just my personal preference. You might be like, well, I think 2 of them are dead wrong, so I don't have them. But nobody in the room out of 70 people or 60 people have this in place. And if you talk to investors, they would all love for you to have this in place. It makes their life easier to have all these things, or at least half of them are the ones you want to, right? So None of this is complete rocket science. Okay, editing a video so that the founder video isn't just monotone, you talking to the camera. Yeah, you might want to get someone to help you with the video editing or developing a visual for the one-pagers. But it's not rocket science. One of our membership program options is pitch optimization program. We have a couple members here in the room. We help do your one-pager, your founder video, help you get this stuff in place. That's the pitch optimization program, but like you can do it yourself too. It's not like we hold the keys to this mysterious process. Like we just basically told you everything you need to do it. So if you want help knocking it out swiftly, we can get it done for you in about 45 days after you complete your onboarding survey. So yes.
How important do you think it is for the founder video to be about the founder and their story versus a company kind of overview video? Like we have a 1-minute video just on the technology and the opportunity, but we don't have a founder video.
Okay, so the video is on the company and the opportunity, but not the founder. I call it a founder video because it should be the founder saying your one-liner and talking about the company and the opportunity. It shouldn't all be about the founder and how is such a great person and where they went to school and stuff. It should. So I'm glad you asked that. It should be like the founder introducing the company or whoever you want to be the spokesperson, saying your one-liner and then showing tangibly exactly what your company does. And if it's digital, then like literally showing the results from the AI tool showing up or showing the benefit of working together. So great question. Do we have any other questions on this page? Yes.
Yeah, quickly. So I want to go back to your direct mail. Did you continue on after that? After the 3 years, did you actually go back to direct mail?
On the direct mail. We've done more direct mail since then. Like for one of our super summits, we held it in Key Biscayne. So we did postcards in Key Biscayne. One thing that we're looking to potentially do is for onboarding new members, send them one of our books and like a letter in the mail. Because sometimes even when people pay for the program, we email them and they miss the email, even though they just paid for it. So we're looking to get back to doing more of it, but we have done a lot of it. And we have gone back and done some of that for sure. One of our companies, the bath salt company, they had a bath salt like those pods where people float in there in the dark. And they found 80 of them that buy a ton of Epsom salts every month. And we buy bulk, like freight, like truckloads of Epsom salts at a time already. And so we sell it bulk to others. And we did direct mail to just 80 of them. And we closed a couple of clients from that. So it was a big ROI because it's a bulk, like commodity sale, business to business. And that was just like a month or two ago, and that worked.
Last question. So
yeah.
Concerning the deck, when you put down a deck, meaning 19 to 25 pages, that's a pretty good sized deck.
Yeah.
At that point, at your experience, would it be better at that point just to make a business plan? Wouldn't that be more professional at that point?
The question was like, would it be better to do a business plan if the deck is getting to 19 to 25? The average length of pitch decks that get sent to me is 35 to 52 pages. I think 44 pages is the average one I see, and it is a lot. I would much prefer to see 10 to 15, but I know some people are going to think like, oh, I can't possibly do that. So like something in there would be better than what we usually see. I don't think family offices, at least the ones I work with, often ask for a business plan that's super detailed, written out that way. It might be good to know that that is a very detailed person, but I found when you plan things out too much, like a 7-year plan and stages, et cetera, sometimes it can make you think, does this entrepreneur not realize the world is going to change and in 9 months, half of this will be garbage because now you have to come up with a new plan. And so I find that like 1 to 2, 3 years out, you need to have a plan. What's your end vision? What's your plan right now? And what are the next few steps in front of you? But sometimes people have such a detailed plan for so long in the future, and in 3 months into the business, they feel like, well, yep, that doesn't work at all. We have to go this way instead. So I think in our industry, 95% of people have a pitch deck, a one-pager, a data room, maybe some stuff in their data room that could include a business plan, but they don't really lead with that or use it too much, is what I've found. But maybe in your industry, it's expected, you know? Yeah, pretty low experience on that. And the pitch deck hopefully is very visual, so you can get through it relatively quickly. Lots of business plans, thick paragraphs, SWOT analysis, so that can make it a little bit challenging. Yes?
When you're doing a pitch book like that, how do you account for change, like pivoting, something happens? It's hard to predict.
Right. The question is like, how do you account for change when you have a pitch deck? Like, how do you write into the pitch deck different? I mean, one thing is to have different scenarios that are actually realistic. I've never seen even a mediocre pro forma, really. It's kind of like they say the worst case scenario is we 5 times your money or something, to be a little bit extreme. But like, no, the worst case scenario is you don't raise the full round, you never do FDA testing, and now everyone has their money burned. That's the worst case, right? Many times people will say, oh yeah, we've only done 100,000 last year, 400,000, but after we raise this money, we're going to do 20 million and then 80 million, and we're going to be doing 10 million EBITDA just 2 years from now. And I'll tell them, like, 18 years running my club, I've never seen someone go from less than 100K EBITDA to 10 million EBITDA in 2 years. Like, amazing if you do that, but very, very hard to do that. So I would just have I'd just be genuine, authentic, have realistic assumptions, because people will question your assumptions right away. I remember going to a pitch with my dad for like a dog food company, and I was like in high school and I had no idea what was going on. And my dad was there with a couple other investors, and the person was pitching their dog food company, and they said they were going to capture X% of market share, but it had like 800,000 people they put there. And I was like, yeah, but that means that 80 million people is your market. And the numbers were so far off, it didn't even make sense to like a 14-year-old, So that happens a lot. People just have such bullish things in there that like anyone who's experienced investor is going to be like, they think I'm buying that? Like this, like, looks kind of ridiculous. That's why Brian was joking. It's like your company is worth nothing right now. So you want to add something, Brian? Yeah, please do. Here's the mic.
Look, I know nothing about nothing if it's not venture, but like I've done 300 investments, worked with all of the companies over years, and probably seen 10,000 startups. So early stage startup, I know. The 2 words that I hate most in startup is number 1, MVP. Minimum viable product is the most arrogant term ever. Try doing a minimum viable marriage, or like minimum viable lovemaking. Like, just try and work out what that would look like. It would be awesome. And the other one is pivoting. So it should be a lovable product, not minimum viable. You should never treat your customers like garbage. You treat them like the people that you want them to be in the future, which is a loved commodity, which is transformative, which it has to be. It has to be complete, and it can be simple. You don't have to have lots of things. Words really matter. The second thing is pivoting. Pivoting is, again, if there's like a first and second place of arrogance, it is the word pivot. It's, again, another awful Silicon Valley term that they continue to use to be able to like somehow give the impression that we knew what we were doing at the beginning. When you start a company, you have an idea. It is not implemented. You have no customer validation. Nothing has changed. Your only objective is obsessing over the customer in a way to build something that's going to be transformative for them. It is not pivoting. It is enlightenment. Maybe it's just I just come back from India, but like I'm feeling enlightenment. It's enlightenment. The moment you realize that everything before that moment was screwed up is a beautiful moment, because that is the first moment you start to build. So I'm saying pray for enlightenment. If you don't get it, you've got a 5% product. And to Richard's point, we know that every single product that we see at the beginning, if it becomes great, it will be 180 to 270 degrees different from where it started, because that entrepreneur is open to being enlightened, and then they will test and optimize and scale.
That was great. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, I think sometimes in a Shark Tank they say, yeah, we get it that you raised at an $8 million valuation from your neighbors and your mother-in-law, but welcome to the Shark Tank. We're here to add strategic value, and Mr. Wonderful will call it poo-poo on a stick, and you should take it behind the barn because he thinks it's nothing, like you were talking about many times, right? So, yeah, interesting. I think if you add strategic value, it totally changes what your valuation should be. Was there one more question in the back somewhere? No? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
To Brian's point, in my experience, it depends on who you're talking to, right? Which is that sometimes when you're trying to get the early stage investors in, if you don't talk about pivots, right? And if you say it the way Brian said it, Brian's an experienced VC, right? So if you say that to anybody else, I really didn't know what the hell I was doing before I got to like version 3, right? You're not going to get there.
I see. So saying like sometimes the audience, if you don't talk about being open to pivoting or having pivoted, it sometimes can make people worry. I mean, one thing that we've learned about the one-liner exercise and rating them on stage, the one-liner that's dialed in for Dat and Dat thinks is amazing because he spent 20,000 hours on dentistry. You can say completely different words and lingo and totally different words that would suck Dat in or would turn him off, like Brian. And Brian has spent 20,000 hours on venture capital deals and looking at 10,000 deals. So some words, he hears it and he's just like, oh, it makes his hair stand up. And some other investors never even heard the term in their life. And someone else thinks like, oh yeah, that's cool. He's going to pivot, So it's like the one-liner and the words you use have to be dialed into your demographic. Like, do they even understand those words? Do they even understand, what an LPGP structure is, or even understand some of the lingo of the space? It totally changes based on the investor avatar. Any questions on this slide? Anything else? All right. We're going to through this last section. Our next guest speaker is on their way here, and then we're also going to do a group exercise with the page 17 worksheet. So if there's anything from the last section on capital raising, anything from this checklist that you need to get in place, which based out of the fact that nobody raised their hand, hopefully there's one of these that you agree, okay, great. Yeah, that probably would help me if I had, one of those things in place at least. Then maybe write that down on your worksheet, and then you can start working to get that in place real quick. All right.
17 and 15.
15 today. Oh, okay. I thought it was 17 in the last city, so that's interesting. So page 15. Thank you. All right, this section, it's on being high velocity. Speed is the ultimate weapon in business, is what Elon says. So moving quickly, huge advantage versus not for so many reasons. One way to move faster is I was in the Boy Scouts. I was an Eagle Scout. My dad was an Eagle Scout, and this is the Scout law. And one thing I've realized is that if you figure out what the law is of your company and who should be in your circle of trust, then you can more quickly figure out who the outlaws are so you can get them outside of your town, and just not work with outlaws. And then the more quick you do that, the faster things go, and then the better life is. We talked about that earlier. So LastPass is something I use. There's a ton of password lockers out there. A lot of them have had very public hacks because I guess the hackers figure hacking a password locker is probably a good use of their time, unfortunately. But I use LastPass. It saves me a ton of time. So if you're not using a password locker yet, maybe do your own research on which one's most secure. But that's one I like. Executive assistants. I find a lot of families that are worth, I'll talk to an investor worth $20, $50, $100 million, and they don't have an executive assistant. You should have a high-power executive assistant. If you're an investor, if you are managing more than $50, $100 million in capital, if you're doing more than $2, $3 million in revenue, you should have a very high-power executive assistant who can move quick, won't get burnt out. And lots of times, when you're starting out, you can only pay people so much. But lots of times I find if you pay someone $60,000 instead of $40,000 or $50 instead of $30, plus upside, et cetera, you can get double the productivity if you're not being cheap about it. It's an investment, not a cost, to get the right people. But they could be helping you with filling out paperwork, regulatory follow-up. We once spoke at a conference in Liechtenstein. A member of the royal family was down the table. And then afterwards, the next day, that was back when I still drank wine, we went to the winery in downtown Liechtenstein, and we liked the wine. And we're like, oh, we'll take a case home with us. Where can we buy this in the United States? I said, oh, we can't because the people who are importing it for us stopped importing it. And we have some distribution connections, but we can't import it because those are separated in the U.S. And we said, oh, okay, well, my secretary will fill out some paperwork for you. So they filled it out. We became a federal liquor wine importer for the royal family of Liechtenstein and imported pallets of wine for a $10 billion family that owns around the country. And it might have cost me $2,000 to do a favor to a family like that. That's an example of adding value up front and just using my executive assistant to do it. It didn't take any of my time. And it cost less than the trip out to Liechtenstein. So looking for ways to take what's coming at you and having them manage your calendar, of course, but just do little things that help everything be sharper, use your time better, help clean up your inbox, et cetera, is critical. And I went through burning out several executive assistants until I found a great one. So I look for someone who survived for 6 to 10 plus years under a law firm partner or at a very big, fast-moving organization. Not going to read this one off to you, but all of us need to get better at saying no every year because you're getting better deal flow this year than last year. And you probably have more K1s, more LLCs, more employees, or things going on because of high interest rates and the little bit more tough economy we have now compared to 2-3 years ago, of course. So just getting better at saying no and doing it the most polite, professional way you can. And then it's on them how they respond. There's nothing else you can do, right? If otherwise you are saying no to your own health, you're saying no to your spouse, and you're saying no to all those priorities you wrote on your one pager and told yourself this morning that you're going to do, and now someone else wants to guilt you into a phone call or an hour-long meeting to pitch something. So I just be super careful on that. Munger says we need to all watch out for energy vampires, and you all know who they are. bad deals, mediocre employees. Look at the 2% of things in your life that cause half the stress and just delete them from your life and get rid of them. This is one of the most important slides. Say no to almost everything. Only go to meetings with agendas. This helps in so many ways. You ask for an agenda, they say, oh, well, I wanted to pitch you this certain type of deal. And you say, oh, well, okay, well, the way we help you is membership in the investor club. I don't vet the deal and then pump it to everybody and try to sell them on it. So why don't you talk to Jimmy here? And then if you want to become a member, that is how we could help you with raising the capital. Or they send an agenda and they say, okay, here's the 8 things I want to talk to you on the phone. And then I go and I say, oh, okay, well, no, yes, 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 yes. And number 6, that looks like a relatively complex but exciting project. Why don't we just spend the whole call talking about number 6? We get on the phone, we talk for 8 minutes, and we're done. And I could read it in 2 minutes, reply in 3 minutes, and then it's a short phone call. My most valuable phone calls last like 6 to 12 minutes because the counterparty is also super busy with a ton of emails coming at them. They don't need hour-long things on the calendar. I've had people come to me after one of the events and say, when do you have a full day when I can fly out to Hawaii and we can meet and really go deep? I'm like, well, pretty much never, like never. I don't ever have a full day. It's just not my type. So to be valuable, you have to be responsive. You have to be agile and listen carefully and slow way down when an important client needs a lot of help, right? So of course, I have done 4-hour and 6-hour meetings with centimillionaire, billionaire families, big important partners. Will have full hour-long, 2-hour-long meetings when we need to. But the point is, most of the time, the people who are selling something, a salesperson reaching out to you, or somebody pitching something, has a lot more time available on their calendar than the person they're pitching. And they don't understand that, and they don't respect the person's time. They're not concise enough, to the point enough, keeping it simple enough, as Connie was saying. So I like setting meetings for 15 minutes by default. Just for every meeting, I just assume it's a 15-minute meeting and not 30 minutes or an hour. Sometimes people will say, oh, I want to talk to you about this thing. Then I'll say, okay, sure, fine. How about next Wednesday at 8 a.m.? And then they'll put an hour-long block on there. And it's a very simple little thing. And they'll say, oh, I've got some other stuff going on that day. Do you mind if we just carve out 15 minutes and it goes over a little bit? No big deal. And then usually they're like, yeah, sure, that's fine. I also have sometimes people that say, oh, I need to get on your phone. Like this week, I got a text message. Oh, I need to get on your phone this week, get a phone call. When can you do that? When can you schedule? And I was like, well, it's a little bit crazy of a week. I had 3 events and all these flights and leaving tonight to go backpacking. And can you send like an audio message by chance or anything? And they're like, oh yeah, I guess so. I can do that. And then they texted me and just said, oh, I just wanted to let you know I just stopped working with that client because they ended up not being like in line with my values. Like, okay, cool. But like it don't need a 30-minute phone call for that, right? And so that's just something that it sometimes can come off as like some people at our first event this week in Dallas was like, oh yeah, but I thought that, developing relationships was the core of raising capital. Yeah, it is, but it's your responsibility to add value to the other party, to be a contributor, and just realize that the flow and the fire hose of things coming at a lot of investors and family offices is so intense that almost nobody is going to say yes to just meeting to catch up for an hour or to pick your brain or to brainstorm, in my experience. A lot of the family offices that speak at our events and were at our event earlier this week, we're saying the exact same thing. Just the time pressure on them is great, so you have to be super concise and make sure it's productive, right? I heard one Silicon Valley CEO say that 90% of meetings could be done via text or email, and the last 10% that were left could have been done via audio messages, and it's only the super critical meetings that need to be done like in person. So I stay super connected to my team. I've sent several 100,000 Slack messages on there. Every week I send hundreds of audio messages. Jimmy and Jennifer hear from me an audio message all the time. They can hear my tone of voice. They know what I'm thinking. I over-communicate sometimes an audio message. I try to. We're virtual, so sometimes I have to really try to. But it catches the tone of voice, and I haven't found a polite way of asking someone on a phone call, can you please speak at 2x speed right now because I'm very busy today? But on audio message, you can hit 2x, or listen to it 4 times, or forward it to somebody else, or listen to it a week later, or refer to it and search for the transcript in Slack. It's like amazingly productive. So I love using that stuff. It allows me to get a message from someone who's here at the event today and respond while on the airplane tonight when I can't schedule a phone call when I'm on an airplane at 11 p.m. tonight flying up to Oregon, right? But I can get back to you right away. So it's not about not connecting. It's about when by the time that someone else has scheduled a Zoom call for 8 days from now that someone shows up 4 minutes late to or misses completely, we've already solved the communication today and gotten back to you and got you the link and got you moved on your way. So for us, it works really well operating that way. But just like anything in life, it does put off 5 or 10% of people, but can't really help that sometimes. Jimmy, I got a problem with the PowerPoint there. Any questions on that? Lots of times you'll see asynchronous communication is what it's referred to. It's like what people are talking about. All right, so I already mentioned there's 2 types of pain, short-term, long-term. You decide which type of pain you want when it comes to ending something that's not working. Tony Robbins said when I interviewed him for billionaires.com that there are 2 ways to operate, owner mode and operator mode. And he said when he was in operator mode, he worked harder at 10 million in revenue than he does now with hundreds of millions in revenue and 110 companies that he's an owner in, because now he's in owner mode. And so there's all different forms. Actually, I first designed this slide when I was speaking at one of the dental investor clubs where I met Dat. And I was telling the dentist in the room, like, look, this is operator mode. You're a dentist. You're working as a W-2 dentist. Then you're an owner, but you really just bought yourself a job at the beginning. Then you start being an owner. Then you could be an investor in other dental platforms like Dat can now because he sold his practice and he's freed up. Then you're a strategic dental investor and people send you deals first. You get better valuations, exclusive access. You sit on the board. Then you might get joint venture equity and other exciting things might happen. That's the evolution of working in a business to on a business to working on your businesses, and that is how family offices operate. I've hired over 100 people on Upwork.com. We're probably closer to $1 million spent there now. We have 4 full-time employees in the Philippines. We have 3 in Colombia. They help us run that private equity deal origination process. They help me email every billionaire on planet Earth several times to get the interviews done. They help us with getting things done in a very thorough, systematic way. So I just have to architect it, and then they carry out all of the hundreds of hours of work to get it done. So a lot of lessons learned on what to do and not do with virtual help in case anyone needs that. For me, I find it's most productive to get up early, knock out all my work, and then a lot of times people say, oh, well, if you're working all the time, like, didn't you say being healthy is important? Didn't you say, like, being happy is important? Like, sounds like you're just workaholic, Richard. It's like, yeah, pretty much am. That's why I married my wife, who's much more relaxed and social. But I put some rules around it. So basically, I get up really early because I'm out in the middle of the ocean, like perfect place for an introvert to live. It's like the most remote island chain in the world. And I get up early and then start working at like 4 a.m. And then I am taking a break for breakfast with the kids. And I get ready for school. And then I'm done with my work by 1 p.m. or so. And I've worked 8, 9 hours. And then I get my workout done. And when the kids pull in the driveway at 3:30, like, I'm free. Or I can go get them from school. And then that works out well for me in my schedule. I did just about the exact same thing when I was in Arizona. Maybe started at 4:45, 5 more often. But it's massively productive for me as a CEO business owner because I get going usually when it's more quiet and the house is quiet, Slack channels can be quiet, et cetera, and it helps. The other rules I've set up that's been helpful for me getting more done is on the weekends, I only work from like 4 to 7 a.m. or 4:30 to 7:30 a.m. in the morning before anyone in the house is awake. They're unconscious. They don't really care that you're working. And then they wake up, they have breakfast, and we have a fun weekend together. I do no client dinners the whole year. I don't drink alcohol, so I don't really want to watch other people enjoy wine for 3 hours. And my brain doesn't work too well after 4 p.m. If I gotten up early in the morning. So I know a lot of you are like this too, so it's nothing earth-shattering, but those rules around how to not make it invade family time, I think is probably important and the main point there. David Rubenstein is a billionaire, and he's written several books, and he talks about fast moving and always being quick, agile, right on top of things. He said he'll get an email, and he's at like a MLB game right behind the dugout on national TV, and his assistant will see an email go and hit the inbox of like 5 different like $100 billion plus private equity firms are all copied on this one email from like a pension fund or someone. Like, does anyone have access to shares of this? Or can anyone get us into a infrastructure deal here? And he said that he'll see David get an alert on his phone or pull out his phone, check it, reply back. And before anyone else has replied, he's like, yep, we do. Here's the details. My assistant will set up the call for you Monday morning, 7 a.m. And he's responded almost instantly. And everyone else takes a day to 5 days to reply. And he said because of that, David changes the whole direction of a conversation. And now other people have not even had a chance to reply yet, and he's on top of it. And it's because he loves what he does. When they show a slide of the Home Depot founders later, they see it as an exciting adventure. Other people might be like, oh, they work so much. Like, well, if you only work on exciting exponential things, then like you enjoy the work, and get rid of the stressful parts of it. So that's why exciting only is important. Which was my next slide. Some of the billionaire time rules I've seen is just to have the expectation of excellence around you. Anything less than excellent is not good, not acceptable. Ruthlessly prioritize your time, and say no to just about everything that's coming at you. I brought a copy of this book. If anyone wants it from today, I'd rather not have to fly home with it, but I just wrote this as a core value for my employees. We don't really sell it, but it's basically, and I can send the PDF to anyone else who wants it, but essentially the speed of implementation is something I got from listening to 7 or 8 decamillionaires at one Eben Pagan event. And all the decamillionaires gave hour-long talks, but they only said one thing in common, and that was speed of implementation was key. So you learn, you put it in place, you learn something else, you put it in place, and you learn faster. So you might not know when your breakthrough progress will be, but if you know these are the first 3 steps, and you have to execute on those as fast as you can, because you learn, and like Sun Tzu says, that opportunities multiply as they're seized. And by getting those things done, the next thing unfolds. So it's something that we really teach every new employee that comes into our company, and is really core to who we are as a organization. All right, we're going to break things up now and do a little small group exercise. So I'd like you to, when we're done with this, help me come back to the room. We'll dim the lights and everything, come back. But we're going to take 20 minutes to do some networking by introducing yourself and just saying kind of like your one-liner, basically, who you are, what you're most excited about. And then look at page, I guess it's 15. I've been saying 17 all day, your worksheet, and then share the number one thing that you put a star next to on your worksheet that you're going to for sure implement. What was the 1 to 3 things were most impactful, and then switch and go to the other person. And then if you can get in groups of 2 or 3 people if you want, give you a chance to get a drink of water, stretch your legs, use the restroom, and we'll come back here just about 15 minutes or so and get back to the last couple pieces of content, our last guest speaker. So introduce yourself to someone you did not come here with today. You don't need to meet, you don't need to chat with the person you can always chat with. And then just talk for 3-4 minutes each, switch, and then we'll come back here soon. Thanks, everyone. All right, if everyone can quiet down a little bit, Keith is about to share his number one insight from today. Here you go, Keith.
Hello, everyone. My number one takeaway is 16 times. Being in front of someone. I'm in death care, guys, for 37 years. So I'm in front of people every single day. I don't have a choice. Even during COVID, we didn't have a choice. Not only being an essential worker, we're very specialized. So being in front of somebody, belly to belly, that 16 times is what stood out to me because it's so valuable. My one-liner is we deal with end of life matters because end of life matters. Can't get any better than that.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Keith. That's great. We had at our AI mastermind, we had the founder of $1 billion plus real estate platform. He's run it for 33 years now. And there was someone in the room saying like, well, basically you can use AI. You don't need to go and visit the property before you buy it. And he says, trust me, like I don't care how good AI gets, we'll use tons of AI. But I'm always going to walk the property with the person and have them point to things as we walk around and know that they know it cold. If I'm giving them $100 million, we're going to walk the property in person. And he said, go ahead and try it with AI if you want to, but like, I'm not doing it. And like, his name is John plus AI. I would bet on all day long versus just AI, no matter how advanced AI gets in the next 5-10 years. Another volunteer. Number one takeaway from the day. Rick Truss. Yeah, I'll walk the mic over to you real quick.
Truth for the life.
My name is Tanner. Mine would be to work on things that are exciting. Cut out that stuff that's causing, like it really is, like that 2% of stuff is causing 80% of the friction. That was like a super valuable takeaway. We are ending a 5-year partnership with our third partner, and now my brother and I are going full steam ahead and creating a more scalable capital stack. And we get to reimagine and redesign how we live in our business. Like Dad talked about, just the freedom of designing out your own company to be exactly what you want. That little sandbox image just comes to mind for you with the kids in the sandbox, owning your niche. Just work on what's exciting. That's passion will fuel everything.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, great example. Yeah, we had a training business I helped my wife and I start maybe like almost 20 years ago now, 18 years ago. and it was making, 50,000 a year in revenue out of 6 million plus a year in revenue, and it was taking like 10% of the team's time, and it was making like 0.1% of our revenue or something, a small percentage. So we just said, like, you know what, let's just sell this thing. We just sold it for like a relatively cheap price to get out of it, and then it just freed up our time to focus on what was better. So Michael, you've been to like 20 of our events. So what was your number one takeaway after hearing a lot of this a lot of times?
I'm just reminded of how important AI is. So your plugins you've done with AI is right in my wheelhouse, but not just my wheelhouse, but this wealth velocity network that I'm building with you, really valuable, immensely valuable for all those individuals. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I think it's the proper analogy, right? They're figuring out how to do this for the first time. Well, now they get to be paired with your tools, and they have literally like the aggregation of all this knowledge custom tailored for them. So I'm pretty pumped about it. So personally, I just want to use those very, very regularly.
Great. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I mean, capital is like electricity too, but the problem is you come to an event like this, and you might meet a lot of investors who have capital, but you have to meet in person, build trust, educate, follow up before the dollars actually get wired over for a deal. With AI, if you can instantly plug into it, you don't have to meet with AI and follow up for 9 months or 3 years to get the value. Just plug into that electricity, and it adds value almost immediately. I think there was another hand up on this side of the room. Did anyone else want to share their number one takeaway from the day, something they put down? Yeah, great. We've got a couple more. Hopefully something that someone else says you missed or could be reminded of.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Eric Runge, and I run Veritas Wealth Management. My one-liner is that I provide access to custom-tailored Bitcoin portfolios with risk-mitigated downside and asymmetric upside for accredited investors, family offices looking to deploy $1 million or more in capital. My takeaway is a rebrand, because my firm name sounds really cool to me, Veritas Wealth Management, but it's right out of the book of a cool-sounding Latin term that nobody knows what the heck it means. So I'm leaning heavily into the idea of rebranding after just today to Veritas Bitcoin Strategies. So that's my one takeaway, is rebranding can be powerful. It's a little spooky, and I was really uncomfortable with it when you first said it, but then my friends here said that they thought it sounded cool, so that gave me a little more emotional support.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the trade-off is sometimes the practical name that says exactly what you're doing might sound a little bit clunkier than Veritas Capital, but like hopefully you can go through 30 options and then find one that's a good compromise. But I'd rather have a name that's slightly long-sounding, and when you tell it to people, they say like, oh, isn't it like a little bit long? It's like, yeah, but people know exactly what I do. And they're more likely to come in, like Strategic Dry Cleaner Capital. Long capital. It's long. It sounds like a sentence, not even a brand name, but I guarantee you I'll source more deals than, Wilson Capital. So Jeff, add something?
Jeff Holland. My takeaway was somebody said something about MVP. I've been trained to say MVP a lot. Me, but my MVP. So now, okay, got it. I got to be a little more mindful of my verbiage, dealing with high level transactions.
Sure.
And don't forget pivot.
Right, and pivot. Yeah. I mean, I think for a lot of people, I don't think the word would offend them, but I know that one word that kind of offends me is like, oh, well, look at my pro forma, look at this model, like look at my projections, like we're going to the moon after we get this injection. It's like, well, everybody says that, it means almost nothing. So that's one that I think that a lot of investors don't like to hear too much. Yes.
Thank you. I'm Madeline Tapia. My company is Alternacing Without Borders. We provide banking services through an app for immigrants who are not able to get banking services. And since we're cross-border, we have banks in other countries. If they have family abroad that don't have banking services, through their app, they can help them get a bank account. Now they have a safe and easy, convenient way to send money home.
Awesome. What was your number one takeaway from today?
Really, it was shortening the calls. Now that we're starting to launch and it's taking off, everybody wants my time. So that was a really good advice.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. What I've realized is that not everyone, but most of the time, and maybe it's just partially because we run an investor club, most of the time when someone asks, like, oh, can you meet so we can catch up? Even if it was like an old friend who is in my EO forum or something, usually they're asking to catch up to sell me something or see if I can help them raise money or to ask for something. So that's why having an agenda, sometimes you can dodge some bullets like Neo just by asking what they want to talk about, how simple that is. I think there's a couple more hands. Do you mind passing the mic down this way?
That's mine.
Hey, what's up, everybody? So I'll keep it brief. So I'll avoid who I am and what I do because I really want this to land genuinely. So one thing that Dad had said that I really thought was really cool is that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And obviously you can see him just smiling, having a good time. To me, that rang true just by looking at him. Can anybody agree on that? Yeah. And then number 2 is that money's energy. So it kind of really helped me understand, like, bring everything full circle, that how you spend your time really matters, because if time's energy is what you exchange on that time. So how are you spending your time equity to get that other form of equity, which would be money? So thanks, Dan.
Yeah, I think maybe one reason why Dad, I mean, it's good that he says, like, hey, I do this to be happy, and he's obviously happy. His energy kind of matches the words coming out of his mouth, and it kind of breaks trust when that's not the case. And I think many times some of us are trying to navigate something, and we're uncomfortable, and we literally don't even know what to say to the other party because you know you need to end something or change something, and sometimes just being authentic and honest with them to, like, hey, I'm not very comfortable. I think I'm just losing sleep over the fact that, like, we said we're going to do this. Now we're doing these riskier deals, and investors could lose all their money. And I just don't sleep well knowing that. So I don't know. We either need to change the model or I'm out. And just saying, if you don't have the full solution, just being authentic, like, you know, like that was being. So that was great. Thanks for that comment. I think there's another. Yes. Pass the mic down here.
My name is Ehsan, and we are a hedge fund based in the Bay Area. My number one takeaway was adding value to the other party. I think that's very powerful, and everybody benefits from it. Sometimes when you're meeting somebody, even if it's not the right fit, what do you do? But sometimes you can do a referral and know their business more. In our case, we do a lot of internal research. Our hedge fund uses AI to form the portfolio, and now we share a lot of our internal research with our clients, and even people who are not our clients, and they just want to learn more.
That's great and awesome. Appreciate you sharing that. We have time for just one or two more. If anyone else wants to raise their hand and share number one thing. Yes.
Hi. Yeah, I was at the event in Dallas, and I really loved what we talked about with protecting your time. And we had a little bit more of a discussion there around that, but just shortening even like the Calendly link that we offer to folks to schedule time with us from 30 minutes down to like 8 minutes or 15 minutes, because we should be able to hammer some of this stuff out before the call. And that was just a very simple, actionable item that if I could cut 2 to 3 calls in half each day, it's going to force us all to get right to it when we get on. It's kind of how I operate anyway. So just being more protective of the time and trying to use those tools to help you do it in a structured way.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, appreciate you sharing that. I think that if you're approaching business owners and big investors, then they're more likely to agree to a meeting if you say, hey, do you just have 5 minutes for a quick cup of coffee, or 15 minutes? We'll probably only need 5 minutes. And then that cuts everything down. We had Michael Guthrie has spoken at some of our events, and he's scaled his business with his wife over 30 years and had an exit recently. And they did a fireside chat with me at the last summit. And he says that what he does is he'll think of someone he wants to do a joint venture with or connect with, and he'll just record like a little 2-minute video and be like, hey, Sarah, I was thinking about you because we're doing this. I don't know if you want to be part of that opportunity. Here's some of the details. I'll shoot you an email, but just keep an eye out for it and hope you're doing well, or feel free to send me an audio message or a video back. And then he shoots that over. And he says that's been one of the most high response rate, keep in touch things that he's done. And then we had another person who's raised $100 million speak at our CapitalCon event. That's where everyone on stage has raised $100 million or more. And he says that he creates a little video of him, a little whiteboard illustration of the process, and then he gets the link from Dropbox, and then he'll send that to himself, like on WhatsApp or Slack on his phone, and then copy paste that link into like a text message to somebody, and then the video preview will pop up on their phone, and they can just see the little 1-minute video about what you want to connect about, because he already knows that person, so it's not strange to randomly text them that video. It's just kind of reviving a past relationship. So I thought that was helpful. Any last comments on a number one takeaway, something powerful? Yeah, I'll bring the mic over for you.
That I got out of this.
Great.
I hope you don't mind, but know your numbers, have a 20-year view, seek advice, don't over leverage, trust your gut. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Due diligence is key. Know your weaknesses and keep on learning.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So I'd encourage you to practice speed of implementation by, on your Uber or airplane ride home, just to write out an email to your assistant, say, hey, we're going to do these 3 things, or write an email to yourself, or put a reminder in your calendar, or take action on the top 1 to 3 things just to get things moving and get them going as soon as possible. Let me see here, what time, 3:02. Okay, cool. So this is the last big mental model I wanted to transfer over to you guys. This is something that once I realized every big jump in my life was from following this mental model, and I'd never heard someone explain it in this way. So hopefully it's helpful to 5 or 10 of you here in the room. It does combine a couple of ideas we talked about earlier today in a different way, though. So a brute force attack is when someone tries 1,000 different times to guess your passwords, and if they guess it, then bad things happen, right? Or the server goes down and it disables the website, et cetera. But it's basically trying a whole bunch of different combinations until you find something that works. And what I found in business is that it does take trying a lot of different combinations, but if you scatter your energy across a whole bunch of different areas, it doesn't really help to have all those experiments. It needs to all be within a niche or a sandbox you're trying to build in over 5, 10, 20 years. And a lot of the ideas we talk about, people don't want to do if they're not quite sure about their position or a position they want to obtain. Because if you know that no matter how much hard work it took, if you could make, like for any example, if we can make billionaires.com the number 1 most helpful website on billionaires in the world, I don't know what will happen, but a bunch of unpredictable good things will happen. So I'm very motivated to do that. If we have the best AI tool set in the world for investor clubs, good things will happen. So I'm very motivated. So you need that type of motivation to do a lot of the stuff we talked about today, or you just won't want to do the work or read the manual, as Cuban would say. And so what I found is you have to have the mindset of that, knowing your destination, trying lots of combinations, and then reciprocation is a psychology of influence principle of helping someone, and then they help you in return because now they're thankful and you added value first. That's reciprocation. So if you can do mass reciprocation, a whole bunch of good stuff happens. You send an email out and provides a whole bunch of value, then people like that and are most likely to talk about you and do things that could be helpful to you. And so if you, at each iteration and experiment, are trying to add value first through hosting a live event or creating an infographic or creating a podcast or a YouTube video, or even when you engage someone in a sales process, they walk away and they got some insights on what they should ask another death care provider, even if they don't hire you. They're like, oh, I wouldn't even thought to ask for that. That seems like a big hidden cost. I'm like forced to buy the coffin here and it starts at $12K. Like I thought it was just the service I was buying. Stuff like that, right? And so people don't know what they don't know. So if you do that and you're always experimenting with different ways to add value first, then whatever works, you keep what works, and then you drop what doesn't. And over time, you build up legs to your table, and it gives you that momentum. So this is related to choke points. It's related to constant learning. And I first learned this by accident by calling every computer company in the yellow pages when I was in high school, and only one called me back, and he gave me a job making websites in HTML for Indian business owners. I was like, oh, can't believe that actually worked. It's the first time I ever cold called all the computer companies in the yellow pages, and I was like 16 or something. And then when I got out of college at Oregon State University, I found out that OSU grads make an average $32,000 a year. It's not exactly Harvard for my undergrad. That didn't sound too exciting. So I went to the Portland, Oregon Chamber of Commerce, cold called everybody, and tried to meet them for coffee and breakfast. Like 4 people took me up on it. They're nice enough to. And one was an alum of Oregon State, and she said, oh, yeah, it was great meeting you. You seemed great, but you need 7 years experience. You have to have your CPA. So I'm sorry. And I turned no into a yes by changing the structure of the deal. I said, I'll work for free. Fire me in the first hour if I'm horrible, and I'll figure this out. I could do it. I'll work for free. And she said, let me think about it. And then she came back and said, well, I feel bad having you work for free, but we pay everyone else $80 to $120 an hour. So why don't we pay you $40 an hour? And then we'll see if it works out, but no guarantees. And so I got there. It worked out. I worked 80 hours a week my first year out of school. and made six figures my first year out of my undergrad at Oregon State. And I was like, how did that happen? That's weird. And then with the blog, we saw we were getting hits to the website every day, 100 hits a day. I said, why are we getting these hits? Oh, we're ranking on Google? How's that work? And read SEO books by Perry Marshall and basically saw like, oh, okay, there's like 500 keywords on family offices and capital raising. People search for them. We can rank for them. So I made a spreadsheet and I wrote 2 blog posts on all 500 keywords and wrote 1,000 blog posts. And I'd post 5, 10 blog posts per day, figured out the 30 things that gets a website to rank, and our site started getting 1,000, 3,000, 5,000 hits a day in Google traffic, and then we bought familyoffices.com. This strategy is the private equity deal origination strategy, basically, right? Reach out to those business owners, add value first by saying, hey, I sold my business in your niche. I don't know if I could add value or invest, but if you're interested, I'm local. Get a cup of coffee real quick or jump on a 5-minute call. It's what we're doing with, our YouTube channel. It's what we're doing with billionaires.com. We offer to buy 500 copies of a book written by a billionaire. Our real motivation is just to interview them, but they're likely to reply to an email that says, can I buy your book wholesale? And then their executive assistant replies to me, like, oh, by the way, do you mind if I just add some context at the event by interviewing him via email real quick or on Zoom, or just a trick to get one of the 100 interviews done. Same with finding, I got Tony Robbins because at one of my events, I said, hey, if anyone knows Tony Robbins, love to interview him one day. And then a tech CEO came over and said, oh, Tony's on my board. I talk to him like twice a week. Let's text him right now. I texted him. I sent over my audio messages right there during the conference in Beverly Hills, and Tony replied back an hour later with all the answers, and the interview is up on the website a couple of days later. But it was because he wanted to help the company CEO he was on the board of. So then we started looking at how do we get to company CEOs that are owned by billionaires. Now they want to help me because I'm helping their company CEO. And it's just trying all these different things to do something that's hard in leapfrog. So a lot of times millennials and younger get criticized. They're like, oh, they always want to jump the steps. No one wants to do the entry-level stuff. They expect all this stuff right out of school. But I think there's nothing wrong with expecting a lot, but you have to be willing to do the work that nobody else wants to do, which is what Pat was talking about. If you're willing to work your butt off consistently in one area, then you can skip some of the steps. But you do it in a way that adds value first, not detracts value.